I'm going to give you those back. That was a copy Chris gave me, but Michelle put a set there for us. So.
No, I haven't had it yet. I'm waiting for lunch. It was an order. Diet root beer and 11 straw cheeseburger. So good. A little vodka doesn't hurt.
Okay, good morning, folks. We'll get started here. I want to welcome everybody to the sixth meeting of the Transit Commission for the current term of council. We will get to our usual business meeting in short order, but first we will start this meeting by honoring the two transit service employees who went above and beyond in the performance of their duties. Okay. Okay, new position. Thanks. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's always an honor for me to begin the meetings of the Transit Commission by recognizing our OC Transport employees who take decisive actions to assist others under extraordinary circumstances. Today, we will be presenting 2 awards of heroism to 4 OC Transport Special Constables. I note that one of these Special Constables is being recognized twice today. Our first award is being presented to Special Constables Gibo, Brown, and Panida. While on duty, Special Constables Gibo and Brown noticed an individual wearing unseasonable attire and approached him to check on his well-being. Recognizing the individual's behavior was unusual, Special Constable Gibo called Special Constable Panida for backup. Working together to monitor the situation, the Special Constables noticed the individual reaching for his waistband, where they then saw a wooden handle of a shotgun. The Special Constables took immediate control of the individual and removed the loaded weapon. The individual and weapon were turned over to the Ottawa Police Service. I just take a moment and think about that when we hear about stories all across North America where there's shootings and everything, and that's just how special what these 2 officers have done. They've prevented something like that happening here. So Special Constable Gibo, Panida, and Brown are celebrated with this award of heroism for their bravery in the disarmament of an individual with a dangerous weapon and protection of our public safety. In another incident later this past summer, Special Constables Gibo and, I hope I'm saying this right, Faubert? Thank you. Noticed an altercation occurring in a parked car. The Special Constables requested Ottawa Police Service assistance, then sounded their siren and horn to try to disrupt the altercation. 2 individuals exited the parked car yelling for help. They told Special Constables Gibo and Faubert that a 3rd individual in the car had a weapon and was intending to harm them. A 3rd individual emerged from the car with a large knife and began chasing the other 2 individuals who had already exited the vehicle. The Special Constables attempted to protect the individual from harm by positioning their patrol car between the knife-wielding individual and the 2 intended victims. Special Constable Faubert deployed pepper spray from his window, which allowed the 2 individuals to distance themselves from the knife-wielding individual. The Ottawa Police Service quickly arrived and, with the help of the Special Constables, assisted in the arrest of the perpetrator. I am happy that the Special Constables Gibo, Panida, and Brown, and Faubert could all join us today, and I'll ask them now if they could please join me here at the podium. You want to come up? Thank you. First? Okay. Thank you. Josh? Josh, I'll get you first. Well, Josh. You're getting 2? Or did they put your name on all of them by mistake? Jesse? Allison? I'm going to take it. Carolyn? As chair of the Transit Commission, it's my honor to recognize each of you today for your bravery, your judgment, and your outstanding service to this community. Your quick actions showed OC Transpo's commitment to the safety and security of its customers and the entire city of Ottawa. Thank you. Sorry. If we may also, before we get into the business of the meeting and as people are exiting, if we could take a moment of silence as a commission, as this is the 6th anniversary of the Barrhaven bus crash. So we'll just take a moment. Okay, thank you. This is a public meeting to consider the items listed on today's Transit Commission agenda. If anyone wishes to speak to any of the items listed, a request to speak forms and comment sheets are available over here at the door, and there's someone from the clerk's office there to help. Please fill out the speaker's form and hand it to one of our assistants who will then put you on the speaker's list for that item. All speakers at every meeting, including today, have 5 minutes to address their items before the Commission. Is there any declaration of interest from the Transit Commission members? Nope, seeing none. Confirmation of minutes. We need to confirm the minutes of the Transit Transit Commission meeting of Wednesday, June 19th. Are these minutes confirmed?
Confirmed.
Thank you. We would now normally proceed with the regular Transit Commission business on our agenda, but this past week we saw the launch of the city's new light rapid transit system. Before we get into the business, I'll have the Vice Chair to read a motion to add a verbal update on the inaugural launch of our new LRT from the General Manager of Transportation Services, Mr. John Manconi. I'd just like to, as the Vice Chair is getting ready to do that motion, I'd just like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Commission to thank you, Mr. Manconi, and please extend that to your entire team. I know over the last few days, you've all spent a lot of time at the stations and in the control room, making sure that this went as smooth as it did. And I think the citizens of Ottawa appreciate your efforts, and so thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Chair. That pursuant to subsection 89.3 of the Procedures Bylaw, being Bylaw 2019-8, the Transit Commission waived the rules of procedure to add a verbal update from the General Manager of the Transportation Services Department regarding the LRT on today's Transit Commission agenda, and that pursuant to subsection 83.4a of the Procedure Bylaw, the Commission dispensed with the requirement for staff to provide a separate written report on this verbal update.
Carried. Thank you. Mr. Manconi, would you like to now say a few words?
Thank you, Chair, members of Transit Commission. I want to start off with your permission, Chair. I do need to thank 5 groups that have been instrumental, and I know I normally don't do this, but I'd like to take the liberty to do that. I want to thank Jocelyn, Pat, and Troy, who are my members of my executive team, and also Jim Hopkins, Kim, Michael, and Jim Greer, who are not here. I've been getting a lot of thanks, but the thanks goes to them. They're the ones that have put all of these plans together for you and for the public. The second group is our staff, that thousands of them working 24/7, giving up weekends, holidays, birthdays, special events, and so forth to deliver for our community. The third group is, these are not in order, they're all equal. The union leadership team, none of what you've been seeing would have been possible without the support of those presidents. They've been phenomenal. our customers and the public that have been patient. And lastly, I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm going to say, but the media groups, they have held us to account. I've said it at every scrum, and they have been very, very fair, with the exception of the Mumbai comparison that I saw last night. But the rest has been all very, very fair and reasonable, and so they're doing what they need to do. So I want to thank everybody, because it's been a concerted effort. So I'd like to start off my presentation with a reminder, and I've been saying it over and over again. I will continue to say it. You have just delivered the biggest infrastructure project in the history of this city. It is the most significant change to transit services across all of the services that you provide in this portfolio in our history. It is your biggest investment in transit ever. 325,000 customer trips are done every single day. 80% of them are impacted by the changes that you've seen, and we have even more coming in October. And that's a reminder. If 4 people complain on Twitter, you got to put all this stuff into perspective. Busiest LRT in North America. We are getting worldwide coverage of this project, and the first BRT to LRT conversion in the world. I say that not from a bragging perspective. There is no playbook for this. You have just written it and executed on it. So those are reminders to put everything in perspective. That is one of my favorite shots, by the way, over the Rideau River. It's just stunning, and I encourage you to take a ride there and watch the leaves change as we go through the seasons. It's just beautiful. So I'm going to start with the launch event. Many of you, I believe everybody on this committee were there, on this commission were there. The dignitaries powering up. You'll see a common theme. It's all about the customer, right? This service is for them, paid by them, used by them. We had great partners, great connections in terms of the community. Our great staff that were handing out. I had someone ask me, where do they buy those bags yesterday? So lots of uplift on that. So let's talk about Saturday. Saturday, the service started. We had hundreds of customers lined up to get into the stations. The community celebrations, great reviews over that. Very positive mix of customers rode the train throughout the weekend, all ages, families, bikes, strollers, mobility devices, and so forth. And you can see the enthusiasm in our customers in terms of what they're seeing. People have gone the extra mile to be part of this historic moment. I think everybody knows Lucky Ron. He was performing at one of the stations. And great shots of people using our systems and being one of the most accessible system in North America as we speak. Multimodal, you invested in all sorts of things to make this truly accessible for all, available for all, irrespective of the modes that they choose to use. Monday, there's your value proposition. You could be stuck in that traffic, or you could be in this beautiful train riding the rails in. Bus to rail connections. I will be talking about Tunney's and Blair in a moment. People moving through, doing their transfers, morning commutes, seamless from bus to rail, rail to bus. There's some adjustments that I'm going to be talking about in a moment. Our great volunteers doing everything from helping people to people wanting selfies for their own use and so forth. Great shot of the service and our volunteers in action. Our famous escalators. We've had minor issues with the escalators. I've sent you a note. Those are all about the adjustments. None of this infrastructure is breaking down. It's all about the breaking in period. We do have a technician at Rideau stationed full-time to answer escalator, elevator responses, and we have floaters throughout the system to respond. Had a few people stuck in escalators. I know somebody was tweeting out this morning. No injuries, nothing like that. It's all part of the growing pains. Saturday and Sunday, very successful launch. It was a very busy day for many customers riding and exploring. It was fascinating to see. I was out there on Sunday, and people were using the 90-minute transfer window to go out and look at things and family passes and so forth. So it was very good. No serious incidents or delays. Minor issues with the escalators and elevators I noted, including somebody dropping some blueberries that I know Councillor Hubley saw onto one of the escalators. and minor interruption with the video chat function on the ticket machines, restored with under an hour. Monday, launch was on time and ran without incident delays. We had an 8-minute service delay. That electric rail operator restored that service in record time, and I personally, and I know Mr. Charter, thanked her. She did an amazing job. Brand new railroad, full loads, peak, 8 minutes to do what she did in terms of reset in the vehicle, and got into full service. We're monitoring the connections, as I've said. There is that period of adjustments for all our customers, and our support plan will continue for everyone. So we are continuing with the ambassadors. The parallel bus service continues till October 5th. There is the service change on October 6th, which is the next key date. We're tracking all of your ideas and feedbacks, and I have to say that the criticism that, of the limited criticism I've received, the emails and the texts start with, I want to say it's a great project, and I want to say that the train ride was great. I have some adjustments that I'd like you to consider. That's come from customers, residents, groups, stakeholders, and so forth, and yourselves. It's all being put into a database, and we're looking at all sorts of ideas and suggestions. And also, we don't want to inundate our customers. You know, people are asking, why is the escalator only go in the up position, not the down? Why do you have 1 versus 2? Why are there 18 at Rio Center? So it's going to be the next wave of information. So we're tracking all that. So Tunney's and Blair bus transfer, I think that's the area that we've seen the most feedback. I've been there just about every single day. We are doing adjustments. We are helping people establish their patterns. All of what you're seeing is, if you go back to the many presentations, the journey mapping, the customer focus groups, everyone said, we're not concerned about bus to rail in the morning. It's when I get back from rail to bus, will my bus be waiting for me? And it doesn't matter how many times we remind them, you're going to have a change. Change is difficult in patterns. And so we're getting into that set it and forget it mode. I was observing a lot of people yesterday. It was day two of their commute. They now know where to walk. They know how many steps it is to their platform. And we're pushing back on some of it. You know, I had one resident saying, well, I don't like where the Barhaven buses are all aligned, because it's all planned out. We didn't make this stuff up. Can you flip the Barhaven buses and let the people from downtown, Councillor McKenney, walk further rather than the Barhaven folks and the Canada folks? That's not how it works. There is logic to those platforms, and you're going to hear in a minute, Pat is looking at all those logistics, and are there tweaks and spacing we can do and so forth. So it is, while I pushed back, I sympathize with that individual, because I know what he's thinking. When you watch Tunney in particular, they're doing that long, circuitous walk to the back, and they're probably going, what's going to happen in the middle of winter? Am I going to have to trudge through snowbanks? Is it going to be clear? We are on top of all of those issues. We walk the footsteps of the customers. So when we're out observing, I know Councillor Leeper and Chair Hubley saw us the other day, we're not just out there to be visible, we're out there to watch and observe. And great team here, Pat and the team, we're doing drone footage. We're videotaping those bus transfers, and we're looking at every little piece. I'm going to show you a little video of what somebody from the public sent in. Pat's got drone video occurred last night, and it's going to occur today. I do want to remind you, though, and I know there's a lot that's been thrown at you in the last 10 years. Tunney's and Blair are temporary transfer stations. When you open up stage 2, those become flow-throughs. Herdman, have you heard anything about Herdman? Nothing. That's a more permanent transfer station. Tunney's and Blair were constricted by the space and the logistics of what you're going to do when you open up stage 2. So for the East End folks, that gets cleared up. That'll just be a normal flow-through station. Same with Tunney's. When you open up stage 2, it gets pushed out, and the further west and east you get, the less transfers you get, and it's not as intense. Herdman is a full-scale transfer station, and remember, all of these, they're next to Chicago. You got the highest volume of bus to rail transfers. There are no technical issues that are broken in the system at those transfer points. We had one issue yesterday, I think Chair Hubel, you witnessed it. Within minutes, the supervisor called in the extra bus and cleared the platform. The platforms are a bit tight at Blair and Herdman. We were restricted with space with the property acquisitions and so forth. It's not a design flaw. It can work, it can function. We're putting out extra supervisors there, not the red vest, the yellow vest as supervisors, because that helps with crowd control like Canada Day and so forth. We're doing the drone footage. We have some tweaks and signage. Very straightforward signage. When you get out of Tunney's, it's going to say Barrhaven, Canada to the right, the remainders to the left. So those are some of the things we're doing, and we're also incorporating some of the suggestions. So I want to show you, I just need the technician to pop up a very short video of Tunney's, and then I want to wrap up with Tuesday, and then we'll go to questions. So this is a short time lapse. There's a longer version also of Tunney's. One of the complaints is those people that come out and turn right and do that curve movement, pedestrian movements, if you have to go to that far bus stop at the end, it's a bit of a walk. There's not much we can do about that. Somebody said build a bridge, get rid of the buses in the middle. It doesn't work that way. There's a whole science and an engineering process to this thing. I wanted you to see this. There's no holdups on the buses. Some minor adjustments to operators, making sure you pull up right to the platform. We do have extra, not a lot, a few extra buses at Tunney's and Blair, which resulted, I know Councillor Harder had five canceled routes on Monday that shouldn't have occurred. Yesterday she had none. I think this morning we had one. So, and I believe we had one in Canada too. So operationally, the platform is working well. I now want to finish off with Tuesday. I sent you a note last night. Things went very well on the rail service. Short delay in the afternoon rush hour. Those things are going to happen. There was a train issue at one of the stations. We went to what's called single track operations. One of the lessons learned yesterday is Pat and his customer service team were making the messages to customers a bit too complicated. We're going to simplify those a bit. We're also confirming that the operators in the cabs of the vehicles are using the pre-canned messages and also getting on the microphone and saying, expect some delays. Learning moment for us, and we tried to push that message out. Even once you clear up a delayed or a train that's held, there's just like a highway, there's that residual flow through, the catch-up mode. And so the incident, I think, happened around 1:25, which is a good time to have it if you're going to have one. It was by peak, we still had a little bit residual flow in the rail system. But again, a learning moment. We're clearing up some of the customer-facing messages. We had an error on one of the tweets. We corrected that later on, and so forth. But these are all things that you go through. So we're learning about that. I would describe day two, all of us, as a very solid day. These are minor issues on such a massive launch and change to every single aspect of your operation. October 6th, big changes, your big investments come through, and I think what's been lost in some of this is, don't forget, you peel back all those downtown buses, you're then increasing your reliability to all the feeder routes going to these stations, and the core becomes a different place. So there's still really good things coming, all minor adjustments. I will say it again, please thank the staff. They've done phenomenal work. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manconi, and we look forward to years of excellent service from the new system. I want to also highlight that as I know Councillor Tierney and myself and Councillor Gower, we were out there together for a while, and Councillor Cloutier There was a lot of the Transit Commission members that took the opportunity to actually go up and talk to the staff to hear what the feedback they're receiving on the ground is. And I couldn't get over what a great idea it was to have all those red vest folks out there. And as you mentioned, some of them are volunteers. Some of us around the table recognize them as City Hall employees and so on. And I think they were having a lot of fun out there. The ones I was talking to really enjoyed it. So can't thank you enough. If there's any questions, please let me know. I know Councillor Tierney.
Great. First of all, congratulations, John, your entire team. I think there's even some other members of the team that have gone out of their way to ensure we understand light rail better, like Ken Woods. He's been doing a tremendous job on Twitter. Bravo to him. But I do have a couple of quick questions. First of all, yes, I was out at the platforms on Saturday, and there's always growing pains. Things are a little bit different at times. We noticed a couple of local routes where there seemed to be confusion on where the drop-off zone was, because the local routes for the 224 right now in my neck of the woods, sometimes they were dropping them off. It would require, if you had accessibility issues, you'd have to go up the stairs or elevator, cross the tunnel, and come right back down, whereas other operators were dropping off right at the door, and they could take 2 or 3 steps or get off and get right onto the train, which seems more appropriate. Are those the kind of operational issues that Pat will be looking at in trying to repair or ensuring that it's consistent across all operators?
Yes, we will. I'd be happy to talk to you about the specifics.
Okay, and on that specific instance, because in the past, if you're familiar with the East End, there used to be a gaping hole where people could cross, which was not safe. They've welded the fence in. There's no way to get across those lanes at all anymore, so you are truly forced to go up and over. Do we see the 224 operation letting people off at the closest door to light rail, or is there some kind of situation that won't allow that to happen?
I don't have that detail for you. I can say that our operations are set up to drop off as many customers as we can inside the fare paid area, so that they don't have to go through the fare gate, but that we also have to make sure we don't overload the south platform to the point that it delays other customers. But I'll be happy to talk to you and investigate what you've heard and what you've seen.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, because I noticed some operators are actually bang on. They're dropping off right at that door, and not to beat this one too bad, but it is probably the #1 email I'm getting, and John's quite correct. It starts with, it's a great system, but now I got to walk up 3 flights of stairs, cross a bridge, and go back down. But yesterday they dropped me off at the door. So I think it's just more about consistency and training, and I can work with you on that, Pat. I also have the ultimate question. 3 weeks after, is it 3 weeks after the Saturday date when we launch light rail that the ramp will be opening, John, or is there a specific It's my favorite question, because my neighborhood is very excited for that 417, 174 ramp to open. What day is that?
So it's a question of getting a firm date by MTO. They've been very good. I believe there's an upcoming meeting that the East End councillors have asked for specifically to that ramp. You know me with dates. When I know they can hit it out of the park, I'll give you the date. And I've been very strategic with Phil to say, make sure we triple check everything and everything's ready to go. The logistics, there's a fair number of logistics to do that. It's close.
Great. So I'll anticipate, and we do have an upcoming meeting with the East End councillors. I know Steve and Laura and Matt, we're all very excited about that, to alleviate that traffic situation on Ogilvie Road, Montreal Road, and certainly Innes Road. So I'll be following that closely. I'm anticipating it's either going to be the 5th, 6th, or 7th, I'm hoping. But the sooner we can figure that out, the better, so we can get that message out, because it is going to change the traffic patterns in the east end of the city for sure. I did have a question from a constituent, and this might be something I did send to Pat, and I sent to you as well, looking for feedback, and I do have the constituent in the crowd today. The Route 24 Beacon Hill, on weekends after 8:12 p.m., it seems that there's no service from Saint Laurent to Blair, and I'm not quite sure what's really going on there. It's been like this for a while now, and I just want to ensure that it's corrected. And I typically want to ask in this form, because it seems like a single issue, but the constituent feels it's his mode of transportation, and without access to that route, it seems to be a problem. And I don't remember ever that route not continuing past 8:12 p.m. So is that something that could be looked at?
Yes, absolutely. We will look at that, and we'll get back to you.
That's great. There was a story very recently that I noticed reporter John Willing put out. This is a bit of an aside related to Metrolinx and the Presto Pass and the fact that their minimum load values are only 5 cents now. Can you please explain, since we're part of this great Metrolinx system, does this apply to us? Will it apply to us? And what will the minimum load be?
Yes, the minimum load is 5 cents, so it means that people can buy a Presto card without being required to put $10 on the card when they buy a fresh card.
Okay, so right now, if you go on, it still says $10 within the app. So is this effective right now, or is this something coming in the future for Ottawa?
It's coming in the future. It's a decision that was made by the Presto Governance Committee, which includes us, and we're asking Metrolinx now to implement that decision.
So do we have any ballpark idea? I know we hate timelines, but our riders really want to know timelines. Is there any idea of timelines on that minimum load changing?
I can find out and let you know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just on that, Chair, I'll ask Pat to get Metrolinx to send us something in writing with the date. How's that?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tierney. Commissioner Wright-Gilbert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine's more of a comment and just one question. So John knows I actually emailed him on Monday after my morning commute. I actually commute from the Plaster Lanes Park and Ride to Tunney's Pasture every single day and back for work. And congratulations, it is a fantastic commute for me. I think I said I was super relaxed, which never happens. And I'm actually saving 30 minutes a day on my commute, which is huge, not having to wait for a bus at Tunney's Pasture for 30 minutes, which is relatively pleasant in the summer, not so much in the winter time. I do have one question though, and I'll pose it with a caveat that my route home is actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was concerned about the Blair connection, because obviously I get off the train at Blair and have to hop a bus. I personally have not had to wait any more than 10 minutes for a bus at Blair. What I will say though is I do have some safety concerns when it comes to the Blair platform, and I know that your team is looking at with the drone footage and whatnot. On day one, it was chaos essentially, but again, it's people getting used to it, and I understand that. But people, because of the number of people that were on that platform waiting for buses, but not only waiting for buses, but the buses unloading so close to stop D going east, there was this influx of people coming off the buses going up to the train station, right? And then there was also this massive amount of humans on the platform. What was happening is that people who were trying to get from one end of the platform to the other to catch their bus, as it always happens, your bus never comes right in front of you, people were actually walking on the roadway, which I have to say, I think you noticed, because on Tuesday when I was there last night, there were special constables there, themselves standing on the roadway. I'm slightly concerned about that, but to ensure that people were not making that move. So I was glad to see that, and thank you for responding to that. However, and it's a suggestion, and I'm sure you've gotten a million of them, I do think that if the buses that are unloading, that are going westbound and stopping at Blair, that are unloading just slightly further back of that, on the side where the train is, it would alleviate some of the human pressure on that platform that is incredibly crowded. But other than that, I do have to say, it is an incredibly pleasant ride to and from work. And it has been seamless, and you're right, I'm now in just automatic mode. I get on the bus, I get off the bus, I get on the train, I'm at work. So it is incredibly, it is a good system. I just do have some safety concerns regarding Blair.
Understand, and that's all part of the plan. We observed the same things you did. What I want to reiterate is all of the elements are being looked at. You'd be surprised how many people are still tapping within the paid fare zone on buses. So today we're issuing no need to tap, load and go. It's both doors. Some people aren't using the rear door boarding. We saw that the first day, I think the second day. So it's all of those little steps that everybody takes to get their routine established, because if 100 people are boarding a bus and they're all tapping, that adds up. It's a delay. So it's all of those parts. And yes, we don't want people walking on that platform, and we have a lot of experience on crowd control. We move 100,000 people out after Canada Day fireworks, so we're taking some of that experience and applying it to that. So we're looking at all those things.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson and then Councillor Brockington.
Okay. Mr. Manconi, thank you for the presentation and congratulations as well. You and your team have done a great job in delivering this, and it's going to be well, for all of us, it's going to be a tremendous journey, if I can put it that way. I just wanted to understand a little better about Tunney's. I understand it is a temporary transfer station. And I just want to understand, so if someone, I come from Canada as well, but if someone from Canada says to me, yeah, it's great, but I don't understand why the Barrhaven and Canada customers go so much further away. Yeah, I kind of understand they're getting closer to Canada that way, so there's an element of progress. But what do I say? Is there an operational sort of consideration, or what operational considerations were there in sort of putting them at the back, if I can put it that way?
I'll ask Pat to give a brief summary, but what I think might be also helpful is he can put together a written document for all of you to understand Tunney's in terms of the logistics on that. It won't be today. He's swamped with a million things, but Pat, just give a quick overview as to the logistics as to how you made those decisions on bus placements and the algorithm behind all that.
Sure, Mr. Chair, there's a lot of history, a lot of analysis, a lot of engineering and operational design for how Tunney's pasture is laid out and how it is set up to operate. The first is that, as you can see, the bus platform is immediately adjacent to the train, to the access to the train platforms, and our teams who were involved in the design and engineering were able to secure that property from the federal government so that we could use it for the next few years until Stage 2 opens, and laid out that whole bus platform, bus turning area, bus staging area, and all the service functions that are related within the space that was available. You can see when you're there that we're using all the space right up to the curb on the east side, right up to the curb on the north side, and right up and beyond where previous roadways were on the west side. We've taken all that space in order to be able to fit and balance the space that's required for buses to drive through the station safely, turn around and face the other direction, stop in the middle and wait for the next trip, and for all the very complex traffic operations that take place at the west end of the station, where the station connects with the transitway and also with Scott Street. And then the platform space that is a large open sea around the bus operating area has been stretched out as far as it can be and as deep as it can be within the space available, so that we can have customer groups waiting separately. We don't have what we're familiar with at Metcalfe and at Place de Ville and at Bank Street in the afternoon, where everyone's waiting for all buses at the same stop. There are 6 different zones, 3 major zones, each of which has 2 groups of bus stops within those zones, so that the Canada routes are together, the Barrhaven routes are together, and the inner area local routes are together. And then we say this group is for the rush hour buses, this area is for the all-day buses. And that helps to divide the stream in 2 as people come out of the station. Some people are going to the left, or straight, some people are going to the right, and we needed to make sure that the customer functions and the operational functions are spread out so that there's not choke points and that there's not excessive activity happening at one location. And then all of that was modeled, first of all, on computers, which model the operation of buses, the circulation of buses through any space, the circulation of customers. You may recall back in the winter, we ran a number of tests on a little snowy winter morning to make sure that all the buses would circulate properly, that there was enough time for people to get on and off. And we made some adjustments following the computer simulation. We made some adjustments following the physical simulation. We've now put those operations into practice. We put the new bus arrangements at that station into effect a week ahead of the train opening, Customers had some ability, and our operators had some ability to feel the new motions, to make them familiar. We opened the train on Saturday, and some people are making some adaptations. We saw the first full rush hour 2 days ago in the afternoon as people are starting to flow home and to go through that transition that we've been talking about for so many years. We're making observations every day. We're looking for things that we can, if we can change something here, change something there, that lessens any pressure or inconvenience for anybody. But also remembering that coming up in just 2.5 weeks, we've got a major bus route change, which changes the way that customers will be flowing through that station and changes the way the buses will be operating through the station. All of those things are going on, and it's all set up at Tunney's Pasture Station so that it doesn't need to change very much as we go into construction of Stage 2. Stage 2 will replace the transitway west of there, but the station doesn't need to change. Those buses will flow in from the alternate routes that are developed through the Stage 2 project. And then, of course, when Stage 2 opens in a few years, all of those bus connections from Barrhaven will be taking place at Baseline. All of those bus connections from Canada and Stittsville will be taking place at Moody, and many, many of those bus connections that are happening to other routes west of Holland Avenue are happening at stations like Cleary, New Orchard, Lincoln Fields, Iris, Pinecrest, Bayshore. So with Stage 2, the huge funnel of bus operation and of customer flow that's happening at Tunney's just for the next few years will all be dispersed over a number of stations in the West End.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Mr. Manconi and staff for the update. I've been last 3 days in Regina and presenting on behalf of the city at a conference, and we're the talk of the town. We're the talk of the nation. A lot of colleagues, a lot of councillors from across the country are very interested to see the successful unveiling of our LRT and had lots of questions. So I was talking about Phase 2 and the vision for Phase 3, and they're going to be coming here in January, so hopefully we can get them on the trains. But all this to say, there's definitely interest from other regions in Canada. What are bus volumes like, given that we're doing a parallel run? We haven't hit peak volume on our LRT yet. I assume there are a number of customers who haven't made the transition yet. Do we know what the percentage is right now?
We're doing observations. It's very hard to get scientific data from that, but Pat does have some folks out on the line monitoring some of that, and then our station attendants also. Driving in, I saw a bunch of buses caught up on that delay on 417. There was 4 of us looking at it, and it was between a third and less than a third still people sitting on buses that I know they could have picked up at Blair because it was eastbound. A reminder, we're going to gently remind everybody October 6th that bus ride is gone, so start taking it. And I tell the story over and over again. I think like Commissioner Wright-Billard said, she just gained 30 minutes of her life. I think people at work are starting to have those discussions. I know a few people. I've had personal friends email me saying, I just gained 10, 15 minutes, was skeptical, tried it out. And again, all perfectly normal behavior. October 6th, they're off the buses. I
raise that point because there will be some good bus improvements coming, but also the volume of LRT, we're not at our peak yet. We're going to gain another 30% potentially on October 7th when people start to go, because they're taking the bus now. So it's busy now, but we have a lot more people who are coming. I've always been concerned with the transition at Bayview Station between O-Train riders on the Trillium line and the Confed riders. How is that going? I was concerned that as O-Train riders get onto Bayview and try and get on a train, that there would not be capacity to absorb them all. Has that been an issue?
The train-to-train connection at Bayview Station is going well. We do have some peak periods where we see large numbers of people getting off, actually the Confederation line trains to go to Line 2 trains. Yep. And that's sort of some typical volumes that we always see every September with the return of the Carleton University students, and that tends to dissipate a little bit when you get towards the end of the month of September. But we haven't seen any major concerns or major loading issues. But we do know that that 8 to 8:30 time for line 2, that's a really busy time for that line.
I don't mind it being busy, but no one is being left behind. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, good. Mr. Scrimsher and I have had some communication back and forth about late Sunday night service from the train station to Herdman. I have residents who are needing to get down the Southern Transit Way, and there's not a bus connection that will take people from the train station to Herdman for them to make connections. There was a potential for a shuttle bus. Have we made any progress on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I do know the situation that Councillor Brockton is referring to. This is a late arrival of a VIA train from Toronto that comes in after the last train has run on line 1, and at a time when we've replaced train service with bus service for overnight. Councillor Brockington's constituent made a good suggestion to improve a connection from the VIA station to the south. We're looking at that, and I don't have the solution in my mind today, but I know that my team's been looking at it, and we're intending to get back to the councillor quite soon with some clear evidence or clear results of our evaluation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll just ask for you. It would be beneficial for me, and I would suggest for the commission members, if once the dust settles, we toured Tunney's and Blair Station at afternoon rush hour to see how things are working, the flow, the transition, not to dissect and nitpick, but when I have traveled at Tunney's before LRT opened, I had concerns with the layout. I think staff have been quite responsive, but I will leave that with you, that there may be some benefit for the commission to go out there and just observe to see what's working well, but also to see what some of the challenges may be. I keep hearing the word temporary, and what concerns about me, I mean, that's 4 years. We're going to have this situation at Tunney's and Blair for 4 years, and I could live with a temporary situation, but what concerns me is the sheer volume of people who go through these transition points, and to not conclude that this is how it's going to be for 4 years and we're not willing to make any other significant changes with the design. Winter is going to be another beast that we don't know yet how that's going to fully function and work for our customers, for passengers. So I leave that with you. I think it would be good if we went out together. I'm going to do it on my own, but I'd rather go out with colleagues. But at that point, I'll just end.
Thank you, Councillor Brockton. Actually, Councillor Gower and myself have been already doing it. Any commissioner can go at any time, any councillor can go at any time and observe. I would encourage you to try to, as we did, we stood back out of the way because there's a lot of people trying to get on the buses. There's buses coming in continuous. If you would watch the video closely, you would see the movement that it's very well orchestrated, that the buses are just continually moving through there. You'll see a big bunch of people, because let's remember, there could be 600 on a train. You see them come up to a platform, and within minutes, they're loading onto a bus and they're on their way. It's really something to actually see for yourself, to take it in. I know Councillor Gower and I talked to a lot of the people that were riding. I had the opportunity to come in on the bus on Monday. I think you've come in several times on the bus. It's been, so far, for the majority of people, a very positive experience. I'll give one side story to it. Is somebody on the bus on Monday was saying that they were organizing, they work at Tunney's, so they weren't taking the train into the core to go to work, but there was people at Tunney's that were organizing for the first time an opportunity at lunch to go to the Rideau Centre, because now they can do that on the train and get there and get back in the time that they have for their lunch break. And before, you couldn't do it. And they say there was a lot of food choices around Tunney's, so they're really looking forward to that. There's all kinds of stories. I'm sure each of us have probably been hearing from people some of these stories. Most of it's been very, very positive. one of the things I would encourage people to observe, because we need to pay special attention to this, is anyone with mobility issues, how they're working through the system, because there's a lot of aids there. In the planning, we tried to think of every possible way to make it as smooth as possible. So far, everybody I've talked to, and I'll walk up and see if people want to talk about it right at the station. So far, it's been very positive, but we need to keep that momentum going and make sure, like when we change platforms, for example, how we get that messaging out to people and so on. So welcome your invitation. We're already doing it. I expect, I don't see myself stopping that. I like the idea of getting on the rail. Councillor Cluche and I actually drove across town on, was it Tuesday afternoon? Yeah, we went across through a number of the stations on Tuesday. We were at Herdman checking how that was working. You know, there's Bayview. I've been at Bayview. I also took the line all the way up to Greenboro to see what people were saying and so on. So it's, as Mr. Manconi said, they're being very responsive to anything that's coming in, anything that's needed. I certainly haven't heard issues of anybody being left behind at the trains. So I think October 6th, we will have that capacity for those folks. What I also anticipate happening on October 6th, and Mr. Manconi, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we saw the last couple of days is some of the buses in the afternoon are close to capacity when they're pulling into Tunney's. There's always another bus coming behind, so we're able to move the folks. But starting October 6th, those will be empty buses that'll be pulling into Tunney's and Blair to pick people up, which should help that whole movement go better. Would that not be a correct assumption here?
Yeah, I'm glad you went there, because to Councillor Brockington, if you want to go out and take a look at it and give us your suggestions, perspective, by all means do that. I would strongly encourage you to take your time to do that. Couple things. The playbook changes on October 6th. What's happening now, and Pat will explain it offline if you need to, is the journey from some of those people from downtown has changed. They used to get on a bus that had a seat. Now they're taking the train and getting to Tunney's and transferring to the bus and going, where's my seat? I talked to a couple people and I said, well, it's because you got to Tunney's quicker and you're saving time on the back end. I would caution you about going out early and thinking that you can find, I'm not suggesting you're doing this, Councillor, but unless you're a transit operations planning expert, with all due respect, you will not understand the algorithm and the interlining that you have now and what's coming October 6th. And what you'll get is what I got last night. A man screaming at me at the top of his lungs about he missed the 87, the 87's in the wrong spot, the 87's in the wrong spot. It flew by me and I said, no, turn around, your bus is right there. And he said, oh yeah, you're right, sorry, I'm a little bit, rattled with the change. Let the system relax. Let it find its equilibrium. Get to October 6th. Implement your $5.1 million investment. Let staff do their thing. I'll tell you right now, I'm not committing our staff to go out and meet with you on the platforms. I don't think you were suggesting that. We do not have that capacity, and I'm going to caution you. You're going to come back with a list of a mile long, and then you're going to come to me and I'm going to go, no, 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 bad idea, bad idea, bad idea, and then you're going to set yourself up for failure. It is a complicated operation. It's taken me 7 years to even understand a tenth of it. And we have experts from around the world that have planned those. That bus loop was in design mode for years, and it changed 20, 30 times, including where those fare gates are at the far end. So I'm not pushing back. I'm just trying to save yourselves some grief. Go ride the rails, say hello to the residents, take ideas, send them to us. And part of the reason I'm not getting back to you right away is capacity. You got to get through October. Get to the end of October, see where we're at. And you have my commitment will change. And you're absolutely right, Councillor Brockton. Temporary, yeah, some people aren't going to like it until stage 2 opens up. What I love is people are saying, when's stage 3 coming? That's a great problem to have. You have not received one complaint about the rail service. Not one. I have Larry Gall, who helped me, who's done 8 startups in his career, 8 rail startups across the U.S. He's never seen a startup like this one. And those are large-scale operations and extensions he's done. So we're on it. we'll look at it, we'll hear your ideas. You want to go take a look at it and see some things. I'm just trying to be, very cautious about one-offs on that. What's happening right now is changes to people's commute, and we know it's difficult for them. The red vests are there to stay for as long as they need to in terms of the transition and more.
Thank you, Mr. Manconi, and yes, I think you bring up another good point before I go to Councilor Gower for his question. If commissioners and city councilors could give your team a bit of breathing space here to get through this. We need 3 to 5 days to, as you call it, relax the system. What I'm seeing, I saw yesterday, for example, Monday there was issues with Barrhaven. By yesterday that was resolved. It seemed to go quite smooth yesterday afternoon for Barrhaven. I also noticed, some people are asking you for all kinds of documents and stuff like that, after close of business and during the launch period. So we need to give you guys a break here if we can, and so I encourage my colleagues to consider doing that. Certainly, Councillor Brockington, you're welcome to join Councillor Gower and I at any time on the platforms, but yeah, please don't ask for staff to attend if possible.
Mr. Chair, both you and Mr. Manconi have prejudged what my intent is. Okay? I didn't say I'm going to have a list of 40 items and dissect every little design issue with these transition stations. I think it's high volume. I'd like to see how it flows. I invited colleagues to join me. We're not going to go on some sort of fact-finding mission. I appreciate that a number have gone out there. I've been away the last few days. I'm going to be doing it this week. I just thought there would be a good idea as a commission to go out and do it ourselves. But I agree with you that, yes, over the next few weeks, things get ironed out, things will be changing. But I'm worried about winter operations. I'm worried about people basically out in the environment not being covered. I'm worried about safety when we hear that platforms are full, and I'm thinking about how people are able to move across platforms, and that's sort of my intent of going out to observe, simply to observe. So
Great.
I don't want folks to prejudge what my intent is.
Okay, Councillor Gower.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of my questions have been answered. 2 quick ones. I'm curious what we're seeing at first 2 days. What are your observations around the peak times at Tunney's and Blair? Because there must be times that are busier than others in the afternoon rush.
They're peaking exactly as we had predicted. So around 5:15, Pat, I think, or around that time is the peak at both those locations. The inbound is much better than the outbound in the afternoon, the PM, because people are getting to their bus connection.
Okay, thank you. And the other question is, I think today is another experience that we'll have a lot of new people trying the bus with the Seniors Day today. And for the benefit of commissioners and councillors who are getting some questions on this, and maybe to help our friends in the media communicate, can you just clarify what, in terms of the use of a Presto Pass on the system today, what should seniors know about what they'll need to get on the buses and on the trains if they're trying it today or on Sunday?
If seniors have a Presto card, that's they're fine. They tap in, away they go. With the red vest people out there, we are doing extra effort. Anybody that can't get through the gates, we're going to let them through. And then once the red vests disappear, they go to if they don't have a Presto card, they press the button on the screen for customer service help. And you say, hi, I'm a senior, I want to get through free on Wednesday or Sunday, and we'll say, do you have a Presto Pass? No. We will buzz you in, and they can get in for free. We can do that remotely, there's no issue. But your question's very, very good, because and I'm just sharing how proactive this team has been. We got our first Red Blacks game this weekend. We're putting our customer service reps with a Red Blacks jersey at a gate and saying, come on over here, your ticket gets you in, and away you go, because the automated feature is not there yet, so we buzz them in, and in future, in a couple of months, any ticket that's been ticketed, included with your fare, gets you in through there. So it's seniors, Red Blacks, all those things.
Building on that, I believe the Sens have their first preseason games this week as well, so the 400 Connection Series are running as they always have at this point during this transition as well?
Mr. Chair, yes. During the transition period, the 400 series routes are the same. After the October 6th, we'll be providing information to our customers on the new changes that make the 400 series routes easier to use as they make direct connections from line 1.
Okay, thanks very much.
Councillor Kavanaugh, please, and then Councillor Meehan.
Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations again. It feels like you just gave birth or something. I feel like that's what we're celebrating, and it is a birth. It's something really big for the community, and it's a big addition to the family, and it's going to be great moving forward. We're all excited about it. It's early days right now, and so there's just little things that have to be sorted out, and many of my colleagues have raised those. I really appreciate Councillor Goward talking about Seniors Day, because there has been a lot of confusion. People thought that they couldn't use it if they didn't have a Presto Pass, so we want to encourage them to get out there and enjoy the system. So I appreciate those comments. You know, it's going to be hard to tell how things are going in terms of areas like Bay Ward, in terms of the bus service, because of the overlap. So it's not fair to judge it right now. I'm already hearing that, you know, people wait at Tunney's and the bus is full because obviously people got on downtown. It's the same bus as before. So those things are just not fair to judge at the moment. But I thought it would be important that we have metrics in terms of, you know, how many buses were late and missed previously, like, for example, last winter when was sort of the peak of problems, and you yourself said so, that, you know, that, and apologized to many constituents who had experienced problems. I think we really need to compare apples to apples in terms of, you know, what was it like last January to next January, and see how I'd like to see those metrics. Are we improving in terms of no more late buses, no more missed buses? That is the thing that is probably the most concern to the residents of Bay Ward, because that's where they experience. It's at the bus stop near their home, before they get on to that. And obviously it's way early days, but I think it's really, really important to have those metrics so that we can really see if we're improving as a city. And I do believe you keep track of that, so I mentioned it at FEDCO as well. That's important. We need to see the improvement, and we need to see those numbers. We also need to see the ridership, and obviously we're going to have that as well. I think it's after October 7th is the real test, and I'm really hoping it will be improving, and of course we're really gearing up for stage 2 as well, and we're going through all that as well. If you have any comments about putting together metrics, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, just a reminder that, so we do have the data on the challenges we've been having the last couple of years, and we are bringing the framework for the new scorecard for you, which I know Chair Hubley has talked about having a few members of this committee on the working group with us on shaping the standard metrics, but also what other metrics we want to look at, and performance on bus service and rail service will definitely be there. We've done some amazing work. We've joined some international groups that do benchmarking of multimodal systems like ours, and so we want to give you, on a regular basis, you'll be having a scorecard that, and we're even thinking about putting it out on octransport.com. That's all coming to you as framework, and then you're absolutely right, Councillor, you'll be able to compare pre-multimodal, post-multimodal on all lenses.
Thank you, and I know that we'll have future conversations after October 6th, but in terms of just tweaking, because I'm already getting comments on the routes that are being proposed that won't quite cover things. For example, we've already talked to Pat about the number 11, which will come back, and we're very grateful it's coming back to Bayshore, but there's still interest in having a Sunday morning church bus, you know, i.e. before 10 o'clock in the morning, which there isn't right now. So there already are observations like that. So these are things that going forward, we'll take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanaugh. Councillor Meehan.
Thank you, Chair Hubley. Mr. Manconi, may I add my congratulations to you and your team. I wrote it on Saturday, and if you've been following my Twitter, I've been taking the bus regularly in the last little while to encourage residents in the south end of the city who have never tried transit to get on the train, to get on the bus once or twice a week. and then ultimately use the train. So in that experience, I've been hearing from people who are saying, yeah, I can't wait for stage 2. I've been saying a few years, I've been saying 2022, 2023. Can I narrow it down for folks at this point? Is that possible?
Stick with the current timelines and share, I believe if it's not out there, we might be pushing out a tweet soon on your particular ward, the stage 2 extension of the Trillium line. The actual rail was being delivered yesterday. So it's just progress. You know, the date's one thing, it's seeing the construction. I'm sure you've been near the Airport Parkway. Those are caissons, those hold up those stations. The whole corridor has been cleared for the Trillium line. I would encourage you to pick up those photos and tweet those out and just talk about that. And Mr. Morgan is always available to meet with you if you want to do some messaging on the timelines and so forth.
Okay. One of the things I heard this morning is because people are paying attention to the news and they're hearing about some of the glitches, and especially in the afternoon, a lot of people they're reluctant right now to try the train, to try the transfer. Has there been any discussion? I mean, I don't know if that's prevalent across the system. Has there been any discussion maybe that October 6th might be too soon to stop that parallel service? I know that the way the wheels go, that would be impossible, but we're sticking to that October 6th, right?
We have to. I mean, in the perfect world, you keep it forever because it's an insurance policy if the train goes down. It costs you $1 million a week. It was difficult to get that. And we are locked and loaded, ready to go for October 6th. Okay.
One last question. One of the concerns that people have and what they feel is a real problem is some of the express routes are now, like express routes like from Finley Creek, from Richmond, some of the southern suburbs, there was an express route that went downtown. That's been eliminated, so there's another transfer in there. And people are confused, like, why, if you want us to get downtown faster, why would we add another stop on an express route? Let's talk specifically about Finley Creek, because they're seeing another transfer before they get on the train.
I would encourage you to sit down with Pat. He can cater it to your ward. We've got a memo coming out. Sorry, all the dates are a blur in my head right now. Shortly to all of you, and it will show the $5 million investment by ward, how it's going. But more specifically to that, he can help you respond to that. I will say this: over 98% of the bus routes connect to LRT. Those that some have a transfer introduced that they didn't before. I'm hearing a bit about, I've got a double transfer, in rare cases a triple transfer. Those percentages are very, 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 very tiny, like single digits. And so Pat can help you out on any specifics in that regard.
I understand that, but problem is people are saying they're going to take their car, and because of that, and that's exactly what I don't want to see. Like, we're already congested from the south end. I want fewer cars on those roads, more people on the bus, and ultimately we'll all be a lot happier getting where we want to faster. So I want to explain to these people why they should leave their cars at home, continue to do that, even though they've got a transfer and then a longer distance to walk. So if Pat, I will be talking to you about that, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Meehan. Commissioner Carricajado, and then Councillor Blade.
Hi, congratulations. I've been riding it since Saturday. It's a beautiful service. Couple questions about the smell you brought up in your email on Parliament Station. I think I smelt it in Rideau Station yesterday. And I just anecdotally talking to folks that it was there throughout the construction period as well. So just wondering if you've identified what that is and what are you doing to remedy it?
Yes, Parliament, it's, there's some moisture in one of the pits at the bottom of the escalators where the steel grates are. RTM has pumped that out. They're using sanitizer in it. I think there's still some moisture that they have to address in there. Rito, the chair, just pointed that out to me. We heard about that this morning. Troy's on that one also, and we're looking at that also.
Great. And finally, if you could just confirm the night service that will be available after October 6th. I've been just playing around here on the website trying to figure out how I would do it, and it just keeps saying, oh, your trip will change after October 6th. So if you could just confirm what the night service will be like. For example, if you're working in the market and you need to get home after 1:30 when the train no longer rides. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there will be 6 overnight bus routes that operate at the times that that line 1 is closed for maintenance overnight. Those 6 routes continue the same overnight service that's there today on the different corridors where we do provide 24-hour service. So those 6 routes are Route N39 going to Orleans, Route N97 going to the south and the airport, Route N45 to the hospital complex. Those are all going east from Rideau Station every half hour. Then going west, we have Route N75 to Barhaven, Route N57 going to Bayshore, and I believe it's Route N61 going to Canada. All the details of those routes are available on octransport.com.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councillor Blais.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've ridden the bus and the train in 2 of the 3 mornings. Train is very good. I spend twice as much time on the bus getting to the train as I do on the train. So I'm wondering what efforts are going to be made to reduce that time from the neighborhood to the transitway, or to the train line.
Chair, I'd be happy to talk to the councillor about where he's traveling from, what experiences he has. Of course, the biggest thing that council has decided to do for that eventuality in the future is to extend the train line to a number of stations in Orleans where all connections from all parts of Orleans can go up to the nearest bus transfer.
I appreciate that, but the travel time from Jeanne d'Arc to Blair on the bus is 4 minutes, right? So it's really from the new communities to the south down to the corridor in the first place. So I'm wondering what transportation measures are going to be taken, transit priority measures, route changes, et cetera, to increase that speed to the train line itself.
Sorry, Councillor, are you asking, is your service delayed, or are you asking us, can we improve things for existing bus service to that transfer point?
Both.
If your service is delayed, we can talk to you about that. If you're looking for improvements of getting bus to that transfer point as part of your budget process, you can certainly direct funds to us if you want transit priority lanes and things like that. It's all in the TMP right now. If there's things in there that you want enhanced, you can certainly talk to me about it. Our mission is as per what council's approved in the Transportation Master Plan and your capital work plans.
Okay. So getting to the Transportation Master Plan, this change in vocabulary around Westboro and Blair is concerning to me this morning, because those were always intended to be terminal stations, and Stage 1 was procured before Stage 2 had even been announced. So I'm wondering, this notion that they're temporary transfer stations or temporary terminal stations, certainly the feedback that I've received is similar to what Commissioner Wright-Gilbert expressed. There isn't space on the platform in the afternoon. In the morning, it's very reasonable. And if Councillor Brockington is correct and your observations about how many people are on the bus still are correct, if we add 30% volume to that, and then you add winter clothing to that, it appears that we're going to experience some big problems there, because we already are. Are you sure that the changes for October 6th, October 7th is the real test, the first business day, are going to address that particular issue?
We have our plans. We're adjusting what we've got right now. Our concerns are aligned with yours. That's why we're agreeing with the comments that we've heard here. But that's what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, which I outlined in my presentation. If you're looking for comfort, I think you've got a proven track record. Go back 5 years when we were implementing the detours. Everybody said they weren't going to work, and we're going to have problems on Scott Street, and we're going to have problems all over the place. We had one issue at Herdman for 6 hours, and we addressed it as a temporary issue. So we're looking at all those things. I know Pat gave me short, medium, and long-term adjustments to both Herdman and Tunney's this morning, because we're meeting, the operational team, executive team is meeting every day, and we're looking at all those. On winter, I can tell you there won't be any snowbanks there, because we've already pre-planned our winter control plan in those platform so there won't be any encroachment into the sidewalk, as an example. And I share that because that's how far into the future we're looking, and that was done months ago, and we just reiterated that this morning. So yes, there'll be an increased volume from those people. Our concerns is the same as yours, and we're taking action to mitigate that. So Pat's looking at some things, and I think he wants to jump in right now. Pat?
Yeah, there's three particular things that will change at both Blair and Tunney's on October 6th that will make the experience different than it has been the first 2 afternoons. The first is that those afternoon buses that are heading out from Blair to Orleans and to Kanata-Stittsville and Barrhaven from Tunney's Pasture will actually be originating at that station. They won't be coming through from downtown, therefore they won't be affected by any variability caused by traffic congestion through downtown, construction in downtown, or the detours that those buses have been following for the last 5 years. Those buses will be much better able to start their trip on time, and as we talked about earlier, those buses will be empty at that point. They'll be picking up all customers who are waiting. Second, after October 6th, there will be fewer buses circulating through the stations. Right now, those stations are having to support the buses that are going in and looping through on their way downtown and coming in and looping through on their way out from downtown. After the bus route network change, they have to support only the number of buses that are coming into the station, dropping people off, going to wait for their departure time, and then coming around to pick people up. So the amount of buses circulating inside those terminal areas will go down. And then a third thing is that right now we have to dedicate platform space at those stations to pick up customers who are boarding there and traveling towards downtown. There are people who walk into those stations and choose to travel to downtown by bus as they can. Once we don't have bus service from that point into downtown anymore, that platform space, which we have to reserve and designate for that direction of travel, can then be freed up and reallocated to give more space for people who are on the outbound trips and also to be dropped off in the morning. And that's all been part of the long-term plan that these stations are designed to achieve and that we're now delivering.
Okay, also, I noticed, thank you for that. This morning, the train stopped at Via as scheduled, the doors open, Via's not a busy station. At Ottawa U, the train stopped, the doors didn't open automatically. And so I'm wondering what the calculus is or the determination is on what the stop time at the stations is and when the doors open or not automatically.
That's a very long conversation. We can take you through all that if you like, Chair. In summary, the doors are in automatic mode right now. When we go into colder weather climates, they will open in the underground stations and then be controlled via the operator at the above ground station. That's because you want to keep your heat in and keep passenger comfort and so forth. But happy to brief you on all that. In terms of Ottawa U, I don't know, Troy, if you've got a specific comment as to the door situation, we can look into it on that and get back to you, Councillor. But the whole science on how the doors are timed and sequencing and everything is controlled by the train control system, CBTC system, and so forth.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Tierney?
Great.
Anybody else? Sorry, before Councillor Tierney speaks, otherwise this is the last question. We're good? Okay.
We're good? Thank you very much. So just a couple of quick follow-ups, John, and I just want to follow up because there's some confusion with our senior population, and that's where I'm really concerned about things. Currently, right now, what's the process if they're getting onto a bus? I've heard stories of where they use the web chat at the stations to get themselves onto the trains, but my understanding is they currently can go to Shoppers Drug Mart, get a Presto card. How much are those cards? $8, $6, and then they load it up with the minimum $10 currently, and now they can ride for free on Wednesdays and Sundays. Would that be correct?
Pat will explain that to you.
Yes, that's exactly correct. If customers go to get a Presto card, they can get it at any Shoppers Drug Mart, any Loblaws store, any superstore, any OC Transpo service counter, and certain city client service centers. They have to get a card and ask the agent they're buying the card from to encode it with the senior discount. That's a one-time purchase. If they're only traveling on Wednesdays and Sundays, they are clear forever with that card. We ask customers to tap the card. There's no debit taken from that card if they're entering into a fare gate at an O train station, and just show their ID or talk to the operator of a bus when they're getting on. There's no need to tap the card when you get onto a bus. You just say hello to the operator, and the operator will recognize the validity.
Okay, that's great. So how much are those cards right now at Shoppers?
To buy a Presto card is $6.
$6.
Yes.
Do the seniors require the minimum load of the current $10, which is dropping to 5 cents apparently?
The seniors should, so we'll get you the information of how Metrolinx is implementing that policy change.
Yeah.
The seniors can speak to the agent at the service channel where they're buying that card right now to find out what the policy is that that channel is applying.
So I'm just assuming, I hate to use that word, currently it's $6 plus the 10, so 16. So in the new world, and Anne-Marie Atkins from Metrolinx just tweeted back at me saying October 28th, all Presto card systems across the province are going to drop to 5 cents. So it would be $6.05 for a senior versus the current $16 minimum, which
Right.
would help us relieve those barriers for seniors. Would that be correct?
Yes. Now, if they have the $10, if they choose to put any stored value on the card, they have the ability to travel on other days as well.
Okay, I think that's very good news, and thanks to Anne-Marie Atkins at Metrolinx for getting back to me on that.
Councillor, just a caution on messaging. I don't know if you're going to push that out, but it's always good for them to have some money on that card, the $10, or if they can afford it and so forth, because if they're riding on a non-free day, then they have that and they don't get stuck at the gates and so forth.
Right, but I think that, John, in all fairness to our seniors, if $16 doesn't seem like a terrible amount of money, but for a senior on a fixed income, it is. And if they can reduce that to $6.05, I'd like to be able to get that message out to my seniors that maybe on fixed income or pension.
Agree 100%.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Brockington brought up a good question. Mr. Manconi, the mail-out. We did a mail-out to every resident before launch date. Is there a neighborhood-specific mail-out that's going out before October 6th? If we could talk about that.
Yes, we have mail-outs that are going again to every household in the entire city, or every address in the entire city. That'll be going out next week. They're organized by district of the city, so there's 6 different parts of the city that are getting customized messages for that area. The first message was, which I think we all saw, was welcome aboard, giving information on the new O train and what it does, how to use it, and we'd like you to come see it. The second message is much more specifically oriented to the bus route changes that are coming to all parts of the city on Sunday, October 6th and Monday, October 7th.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so no more questions. Is this item received by the commission? Great. Thank you. Oh, okay. Vice Chair has...
That the Transit Commission received the verbal update and presentation from the General Manager, Transportation Services Department for information.
Received or approved. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, status update, Transit Commission motions and inquiries for the period of 9th September 2019. Is this item received? Okay, thank you. Item number 3, capital adjustments and closing of projects for the Transit Commission. The way it reads is that the Transit Commission recommends to Council 1, authorize the closing of capital projects listed in document 2. Number 2, approve the budget adjustments as detailed in document 2. Part 3, permit those projects in document 3 that qualify for closure to remain open. And 4, approve the return to source or funding required for the following funding balances and eliminate debt authority resulting from the closing of projects and the budget adjustments. A, capital reserves, $349,652, and B, debt authority, $141,025. Are there any questions? Maybe just, sorry, before we go to questions, maybe let's let Mr. Manconi add a bit to that, maybe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just two quick things. The first is within the report also includes the commitment we made to the Commission about transferring funds to enable electric buses. So there's $6 million in transfer from an account. And then the second piece is a top-up of $900,000 to an account so that we have $1.5 million for the para online booking that you and the Vice Chair announced the other day. So you have the funds for the online booking and you have the funds for the electric bus program.
Thank you, Mr. Manconi. So is there any questions to this, folks? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of questions about the reports. So for the Q2 compensation report, the transfer operations overtime is showing as being 89% spent at this point in the year. Do you anticipate that the year-end actual spent is going to be more than what was budgeted?
Sorry, that's the other report. I think that's, we're on capital now? Are you on operating?
Moving on.
Okay.
Apologies. No, it's fine. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so then if no questions, is this item carried? Thank you. Okay, item number 4, 2019 Operating and Capital Budget Q2 Transit Commission Status Report. That the Transit Commission received this report for information, and so is there any questions on this item? I'm taking a guess here that you might have a question.
Sorry, I was out of order. Apologies. So on the Q2 report, we're on that one, right? The operating and capital report? Yes, thank you, sorry. So on the overtime being 89% spent, I recall when we were having discussions regarding the budget for this year, I raised some concerns at our first Transit Commission meeting regarding what was budgeted for overtime, given that the LRT at that point had been delayed. Given that we are now at 89% spent on the overtime budget for transit operations, do you anticipate that the year-end actual spent is going to be more than what was budgeted? And if so, is there any mechanism to recover this overage via RTG, given that the increase in overtime costs is as a result likely of the delay of the opening of the LRT?
So the RTG costs have been included in the deduction that we did from their final payment at the $59 million. You've been informed of that one. In terms of this budget forecast, you've heard the Treasurer and both her and I agree this is a massive transition year for us. And those of you that know me, getting to a balanced budget is, not having a deficit is one of my key focus areas. The budget is gross $578 million, $500 million. This forecast, the year-end forecast, says that we're going to be about 99% of our budget. So we will absolutely do everything we can to make sure that we get in at zero. There are some challenges. People are still making fare choices based on using Presto versus a monthly pass. And yes, there's been a lot of overtime costs that are not related to RTG construction elements. They're related to other things that we had to do to keep things going. So we will try. The goal of this management team, it prides itself in getting to not a deficit and a surplus, and we've had some good years in the past. So I can't guarantee it, but that is absolutely our effort on that. But just a reminder, it's a $578 million budget, so to get within that shot right now with a forecast is always difficult.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councillor Brockington, we also have 7 speakers on this item. Do you want to ask your question now, and I'll just queue up the speakers before you start, or would you rather wait? Okay, then just give me a second to tell the first 2 speakers who will be next. So when Councillor Brockington's done, if we could have Sam Boswell, if you want to make your way up to the microphone here, you'll be the first speaker to this item, followed by Carrie Elliott. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Brockington. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on the on page 3 of the report, we have the 2019 year-end forecast. We're forecasting 6.8 million budget deficit. the report indicates reasons why, what's driving that deficit. I'd like to know if I can have, after today, a more precise breakdown of what each of these components' financial numbers are. So how much is paratranspo contributing it, how much is lower fare revenue contributing to it, how much is the lower average fares. For the fare freeze, how does that get accounted for here? Does that actually contribute towards an OC Transpo's deficit, or are we not taking monies that we were going to pay to RTG and they're going in to plug this hole specifically?
I'm just looking at the treasurer. I don't know if she heard the question or not.
I did hear the question. Ms. Cummings is the financial manager for OC Transpo, and she tells me that we have actually the fare freeze, that loss of revenues is still reflected in these numbers. If you remember, what council directed us to do was to actually take a transfer from the reserve to cover that deficit. So we will be doing that as part of the year-end balance. So I apologize, these numbers are probably a little bit higher than they should be because that fare freeze has not been stripped out of these numbers.
Okay, that's good. But for my other questions, can I get a breakdown?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Welcome, Sam Boswell, and go ahead and start whenever you're ready. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, the part that makes me nervous is talking into the microphone. How silly is that? My name is Sam Boswell. I am one of the board of directors of the Ottawa Transit Riders. Today I'm here to support the para-parity movement. We picked this item because this is the budget item. We thought this was appropriate just to make sure we're on the agenda and speaking in front of all you good people. We were very, very happy to hear about the recent online booking decisions, the web booking for this year and the full suite and the app next year. We wanted to encourage a couple of things. Ensure that the 50-50, setting aside 50% of the phone lines, 50% for online bookings, so we don't create a new inequity in people that are booking paratranspo. And it's really important to me, to the para-parity people, to Ottawa Transit Riders, to Healthy Transportation Coalition, that there is consultation on this. There has been cases in the past where accessibility decisions have been made for public transit and the users were not included and not consulted. So I would like to encourage the Transit Commission to involve this group, to involve Healthy Transportation, para-parity, and Ottawa Transit Riders in a working group as you make these plans. And I realize that the full announcement will be at November 20th. That gives us 2 months. So please include us, please talk to the users. We can all point you to people who have opinions on how these systems should work. And I guess I'll keep this short because I know we have a full list of people to talk, but I'm really, really happy to see this happening. Getting involved in the board of directors and the Ottawa Transit Riders, I have been horrified at how we treat paratranspo users and people with accessibility challenges using conventional transit. This has to change. They can't be waiting 3 hours to book rides. They can't be limited to 4 rides a day. They can't be paying more to go across the city than a conventional transit user would use. So the web booking is a really good start, but this has to be an ongoing system. This has to keep, we have to keep making improvements. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boswell. Any questions to the delegation? Thank you. Next, I've got Carrie Glynis Elliott. Thank you, welcome. And the next person is Sally Thomas. I don't see, I do see Sally here now. Sally, you'll be next. Thank you.
Hi, it's Carrie Glines Elliott, actually. No, that's fine. My name is a bit funny that way. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to let me speak. Again, I'm representing the Ottawa Transit Riders, and we're supporting the Parity campaign. And I know it's not specifically listed on the agenda, but the reason that we chose to speak here was that there was a very interesting announcement made last Friday about the online booking. And what I want to say, first of all, I just want to start actually with the LRT. The launch of the LRT is very, very exciting, and we're all very happy about that, and it looks absolutely great. But one of the reasons that we're so happy about the LRT launching is that once it's launched, we're hoping to be able to talk about other issues like para-parity. I think you've noticed that there's a great deal of frustration these days with transit riders. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of transit riders feel like OC Transpo doesn't really listen to them. And when I talk to people who use para Transpo, they also say the same sort of thing. They feel like they're not being listened to. We're a little bit bothered by the sort of difference in power differential, the fact that the people who are making the decisions on para don't necessarily ride para. Last week there was a really good news announcement made last Friday about online booking, which is really super exciting. Unfortunately, they didn't give a lot of notice. They gave less than 24 hours notice about the announcement. So people who actually use para were mostly not able to come to the announcement. And I'm not sure whether anybody knew that that was one of the problems and that was one of the things that people were fighting for, but that was a little bit disappointing. I mean, for such a great, good bit of information, it would have been nice to fill City Hall with people saying, yay, well done with the online booking. That seems to be a sort of a mistake that was made. So I'm here asking that OC Transpo consult with people who use para, and I'm here asking that the Transit Commission kind of push OC Transpo to consult. There are a whole bunch of people back here who actually use para, and they have really good ideas, and they really know what their priorities are and what's really, really important to them. I personally don't use para, so I would never in a million years tell somebody who uses the service what they should prioritize. But I am here sort of saying I'd really like to see a lot more consultation on this. Anyways, that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Sally Thomas, followed by John Reddens, and then Kyle and Helen.
Hello, hi. Not bad. Of course, this is above my head. Does it bend? Yeah, there we go. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. As you said, my name is Sally Thomas, and I am a paratranspo user, a member of Healthy Transportation, and Ottawa Transit Riders. And I'm here to talk about paratranspo. I was actually going to talk about something else until my ride this morning. I had an 8:45 pickup to come here. First of all, I tried to get an 8:15 to ensure that I wasn't going to be late, and there were no available rides between 7:45 and 8:45, so that was my first problem. Secondly, when the bus finally arrived at 9:20, the bus driver informed me that my pickup on his screen said 9:15, meaning that somebody at Paratranspo changed my booking from 8:45 to 9:15 without my consent or the driver's knowledge. That's frustrating. I find this stuff important. I wanted to be here on time and even early with my friends, and I wasn't able to do that because somebody else decided what time I should be picked up. That's part of the inequities of Paratranspo that we are all fighting for. This is just a fresh thing that I decided to talk about since it happened again today. It's happened more than once, and it's happened to several people that I know. And I've heard from several drivers and several passengers that this happens on a regular basis. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for making the effort to get here. If you'd like us to look into that, if you can share some information about your ride. Don't do it here in the microphone to make it public, but if you want to, like, email my office or whoever your...
Shall I email my counselor?
Email your counselor, and then we can get an answer through PARA as to what exactly happened and make sure that we take steps to prevent it.
It's happening consistently and not with just me.
And have you reported it?
Yes. I've written to them twice now, because they've done it to me twice now. And one time I was going out for dinner, and I took an Uber to get to the dinner plans and billed them. And they paid.
Okay. Well, thank you. If you can share that with us, I'd be happy to look into it, okay?
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, so after Sally is Mr. Reddens, please.
First of all, congratulations on the LRT. I had a chance to ride it twice since. On Monday, I spent a couple hours on it, going up and down like you asked your fellow councilors and commissioners did, and I found the only thing I found was the signage problem, especially at Rideau Center. That was my major concern, and I know my partner let you know about it. Now we can try to move on to the commitment of improving paratransport service that Mr. McConey made a few years back. We talk about Presto cards. We don't have scanners yet. We're still doing manual. We're still doing it manually. That was about when we had started talking about an online booking system. That was brought up, and it said there was going to be a solution around the corner. Well, I'm still waiting for the solution. We're 105 days away from the end of the year, and you're promising a system for online booking on a web. Are we going to make that commitment?
Are you referring to our announcement last week that will?
Yes, I am.
That certainly is the intention. That's why we announced it. We fully expect, like anything, there are things that can happen. We're not anticipating anything happening to prevent that right now, but Mr. Reddens, if it happens, we'll make sure we're getting that message out to the public. But for today, you just watched us transfer the funds over. In the previous agenda item, we transferred the funds over into the budgets to make sure that work can get started and underway.
This is the thing, we're getting promises but are not kept. Is this promise going to be kept? And who's going to be accountable if it isn't?
Well, why don't you judge us on our actions? Let's see what happens here by the end of the year. We'll definitely have the item back here. We're going to work with you and others to work towards what stage 2 or phase 2 of the para project's going to look like. What kind of functionality it's going to have, and we want to make it as user-friendly as possible. So that's certainly the intention for stage 2, and I keep saying stage 2, I'm sorry, my head is full of LRT stuff right now, I apologize. But the plan, Mr. Manconi, add to this if you wish, but certainly we wouldn't have come out and made that commitment to you last week if we don't all believe in our hearts of hearts that we're going to make this happen, okay? The trick was to get the money in there to start to get the work going. When this agenda is over and goes to council and gets the blessing of council, then away we go. There's already people working behind the scenes to help get this ready, but we'll have the funding in place to carry through on it after this motion that we just approved, the item before, once that hits council and gets approved.
And then you also made a comment that it's going to be like an all or nothing, like the phone-in system right now. What I want to see is a 50-50 split for people that have, it's called the digital divide. Some people can't get to a computer right away, and we like to see a 50-50 divide of people online, booking online, and 50% can use the phone.
Okay, that's not the item we're discussing here and now. It's certainly valuable input into what the final phase or second phase of the online booking will look like. I'm not going to make a commitment to that right now because we have to wait and see all the input that comes in after we get the first part of it up there, and then the consultations with the community as it on goes.
And
so
also,
I'm not comfortable making that type of commitment.
Future investment are you going to make? The situation right now, you're taking everything in. The one dispatcher describes it as you fill in the sandbox and it's overflowing. How are you going to fix that situation?
Okay, again, it's not the item that we're talking about here now, so I'm going to have to move on. If you have anything for this budget piece, if you want to know what we're going to do with para and with the dispatching and all that, we'll communicate all that to you. I am working with Mr. Manconi and his team on the para issue and what are we going to make changes here. we'll do, as Councillor Cloutier and I did last week, as soon as we have something concrete to tell you, we're going to come right out. We're not going to wait for a meeting to get that information to you, because we know, as the previous speaker said, I fully appreciate that it's not easy under today's conditions for everybody to make the journey here to talk at the committee. So I'm trying to help you by first making sure it's a priority for the transport team to get to work on this. But we're also going to, if there's milestones or changes that we're about to make, I commit to you that we will make those announcements ahead of time. We won't make you come to this meeting to hear what we're doing with PARA. You're going to hear about it from us as it develops, okay? Thank you. Next up is Kyle and Helen Humphreys. Welcome.
Thank you. We'll sit beside each other. We can do that.
No.
Okay, well, Kyle looks for his item. I'm just going to start off by saying, oh my gosh, I know how much work this has been for you, and I am so grateful that it has come to light. And I want to thank you for all of the hard work that you have all put into this, LRT. And I want to tell you that I had a misunderstanding about the accessibility, because I understood there was only going to be 4 seats on each train. Well, didn't I get on, and my youngest son got on, and he's like, Mom, you're wrong. Go in every car. Because I was thinking there was going to be a label there saying, like, this is where we get on. Nope, you fixed it. It's beautiful. The seats are already sitting up, so nobody has to struggle with that. And I am so grateful for that. I really, really am. I want to just talk about Blair. I could be way off, but there's an old elevator that you're using, and it's really little. And there was a lineup of wheelchairs and people with bikes. And all I could think of was, okay, I work in commercial property management, and my land, we are in trouble, because we've lived with the struggle at Salem Ross Shopping Center with the elevators not working and so on. This is one elevator. If that one elevator is not going to work, ooh. So if you could just wave a magic wand, please, thank you. Because I'm really, yeah, thanks. Okay, good. So we're done with that point.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will look at it. If I could ask you, folks, please, if we could stay to the budget item, because we're trying to get this passed so we can get work started, okay?
I apologize.
Don't apologize. We appreciate the feedback. I just want to get you to the topic if we could. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess in sticking with a few of the budget items, we could start with the community pass being available at all of the places that the other passes are available. That would be wonderful. And instead of waiting in line, I know the other passes are available online, and the community pass won't be, understandably. So if we could pass that, that'd be great. I'm hoping that we can get a few more buses on the road as well, a few more paratransport buses. I know that a lot of the buses right now are taken up or subsidized by the taxis, but I know that it would be great if we could get the buses, get a few more buses in the budget. As well, I know that there's right now a 12 a.m. cutoff for the busing. It would be great if we could get maybe a little bit later paratransport to run parallel with OC Transpo going past 12 a.m. I know that as a teenager, an older teenager in college, I wanted to go with my buddies, and if I couldn't get a ride to the dorm, then there's no way back. Thinking of that. Other than that, thank you for your time.
Sorry.
Thank you. So the budget, we'll table the budget in November, the transit budget. You'll see in that meeting and that document what we're proposing to do for the next year, where the money will get allocated and how much. I certainly appreciate all your suggestions, and I'm sure this team's going to take those away. I can tell you, and some of the other commissioners, I'm hoping all the commissioners will be on board for this, but we're pushing for more money for buses in the next budget, because there's a whole bunch of buses that have to come off the road right now. They're past their end of life. We just had to keep them going until LRT started. But there's still a need for new buses. And we've got to get council to support us by putting some more money in this budget, because currently we're looking at what the needs will be going forward. So thank you for coming out today. Appreciate it. And did you want to add something,
Yeah, I'm
Ms.
so
Humphries?
sorry.
Sure.
Sorry. I just want to say that the para-parity group is here because I guess they feel that for years they've brought this forward. I know that Kyle already had a conflict with one member who said, I've been fighting for this for years, and you come in and you kind of take over and whatever the case may be. But I feel that the reason why people are coming forward at this moment at any time that we can be heard is so that they are heard, and the ongoing concerns. I think that, like you talking about getting more buses and some have to be pulled off, we actually have to increase the number of buses too, because if, for example, Sally's being refused her ride for the time that she needs, and then the buses are getting delayed because they're overbooked, that's, I guess, another just issue that I want to bring up. Is there any chance that for the budget, you could have an open line where people could just send you ideas where the people that are struggling with the system can just bring them forward to you before you start planning, your planning committee? Because once you've started doing that, for people to throw things at you makes it so much more difficult.
Maybe the treasurer can speak to that. I know there is several options for people to input into the budget. If you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Madam Treasurer, if you could speak to any of that.
I'm sorry, Councillor, could you repeat that question?
The resident that's come forward here is just asking about ways that they can provide input into the budget building exercise for things that we should maybe look at to add to the budget. And I know your office offers quite a array of opportunities there for people to commit, so if you wanted to take a moment to talk about that.
There is on ottawa.ca, there's a Budget 2020 site, and there is a tool that the Public Information and Media Relations Group have put up called Engage Ottawa, and that will be the device that, or the way that people can communicate with the city. In addition to our regular, we have the I think it's Facebook and Twitter and all of those normal things. So if you go on the Ottawa 2020 budget site, you'll find your links there to communicate with the city.
Thank you very much for coming out today. So next we have to talk to the 2019 Operating and Capital Budget Q2 Transit Commission Status Report. We have Trevor Hache and finally Ryan Lenthal. I hope I said that right. Mr. Hache?
Good morning, Chair Hubley and members of the Transit Commission and city staff. I just wanted to thank all the good people that made that announcement on Friday about online booking. It's very appreciative, and you know, that's in sort of the budget document, as I understand it, that we're discussing now with regard to Agenda 4. I just want to make some very general comments with regard to the budget document, and I have a couple questions. The fare freeze that the Treasurer mentioned was funded through using investment income or reserves up until October 1st, I think is when fares will increase. For the Equipass, the Access Pass, and the Community Pass, it'll be extended until the end of this calendar year, which is great, thanks to Councillor Kavanagh's motion at budget time related to that. Just want to say we'd love it if the city could find another $400,000 to extend the fare freeze into the entirety of the 2020 calendar year, so that will be some budget feedback that I guess you're receiving in advance of when the public consultations begin on the draft budget. We want to obviously thank you for making a budget commitment to develop the online booking system for paratranspo. The current situation is so unacceptable for so many people having to spend hours on hold. So this is great. It's a real step in the right direction. So we thank everyone involved in coming to that decision. And the commitment to having an interim system up and running by January 1st, 2020 is also very much appreciated. And having the full system up and running before the end of 2020 is a really important goal, and hopefully we can achieve that. So just to confirm, there'll be a report regarding online booking coming to the November Transit Commission meeting for discussion.
That's correct. That's what was announced, and that certainly is our intention.
That's great. So we'll try to circle that date and have some time in advance to review what's being proposed. You've heard today there's a strong desire amongst many people to ensure that there's a 50-50 split.
This item, as we've explained, is the status report of this year's budget at this point in time. If you could stay to that topic for this issue, we'd appreciate it. We'll have lots of time to talk about those other issues during the budget discussions of November. Okay?
So with regard to page 4 of the budget document, I believe the budget item number is called 909082, Transit Accessibility Improvements. I noticed that on that document, page 4, again, it's item 909082, Transit Accessibility Improvements. There's total authority for the calendar year of $500,000. And I just wanted to seek some clarity on exactly what accessibility improvements are being funded by that budget authority. I know that there's a number of bus stops that OC Transpo has that aren't very accessible to people who use wheelchairs. Many of the buses currently are designed to kneel onto curbs to allow people to use the ramp if they need to either walk or ride onto the bus. And I also know that Sally, who spoke earlier, uses that system, or she would like to use that system near a medical appointment that she has weekly at a Care for medical institution that is in Councillor Cloutier's ward near train yards. And we were really happy to learn that that particular bus stop has received some accessibility improvements. So I'm just wondering if someone could provide clarity on what those transit accessibility improvements specifically are funding, those $500,000 in the budget document. So it's directly related to what we're talking about today. And just finally, it'd be good to get a sense from OC Transpo related to that item in the budget document. How many bus stops are not currently accessible? And based on current spending plans of, say, $500,000 a year, how long would it take to make all the bus stops accessible if we're spending $500,000 a year?
Okay, so Mr. Hache, those are very specific questions, and so what we'll do is undertake to get you that information. Would that be okay, Mr. Manconi, that someone could get back to Mr. Hache with answers to those questions?
Chair, you're saying exactly what I told Mr. Hache when we met, that he could go directly to any staff member here and get any question answered. So yeah, we don't have that information here, but we'll gladly get you that, Mr. Hache.
Thank you, Mr. Manconi. Is there anything else, Mr. Hache, or are we good?
That's all I wanted to share.
Well, I want him to finish his presentation before we go to your questions, if that's okay. Mr. Hache, are you done? Okay. There is a question from one of the councillors for you, Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hache, and I really appreciate you talking about all the positive things that have been happening lately. Not only did we have the launch of the Confederation line, but also we had an announcement that paratranspo wait times will be looked at, and I appreciate you recognizing that. But we do have to work together moving forward. This is about the budget, and one of the concerns I've had, and I had it last year, was about low-income passes, and this is something that is a big concern for those whose budgets are fixed. Have you had much feedback in terms of the concern on these passes?
Sorry, Councillor Kavanagh, that's not the item that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the 2019 Operating and Capital Budget Q2 Transit Commission Status Report. Can we take that offline, if you don't mind, because it's not dealing with the topic that we're on?
Sure,
If
it
you're
is a
okay
budget
with
line
that, then
to
or we
to
can add it
freeze.
to a future agenda, whatever
Okay,
suits you,
will do.
we'll deal with, okay? Thank you. Okay, Ryan. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ashe.
Hello. You can hear me? First of all, I just want to say thank you for making this a possibility for finally, I feel like last Friday was a really big step in the city of Ottawa realizing that people with disabilities deserve to have the same thing as anybody else in Ottawa. And I had the pleasure of being here, well, down the road, when the announcement was made. And I have to say that, you know, after many years of doing what I've been doing for accessibility and transportation, it feels wonderful. So thank you for that. So, with that said, I'm aware that there's been a few concerns, you know, because this is brand new. People want to make sure that they're getting the right service and also something that is very reliable. So, part of my reason to be here today, along with the territory people, is to make sure that we have a good system, that we have something that will be reliable for many years. I know, you know, over the weekend, I experienced the light rail, and it gave me, you know, a lot of hope for what we can have. And I have to say that I'm very impressed by the light rail, and I'm hoping that once we have a service, or a better service, for care of that, I'll also be impressed as well. Otherwise, you know, a big city, and I'm happy that people like us are finally, you know, getting noticed, and our concerns are being listened to, and I really hope that this is the beginning of a better system. So, again, thank you. appreciate it. And I know the people behind me, we appreciate it as well. You know, anyone else, we do have concern, you know, for liability and making sure that we get to where we have to go. So I ask that you please make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out today, and I'm going to ask the clerk's office if we can look at trying to find a way to make it a little easier for you to do your presentation in the future, because I know the sound system wasn't optimum there for your presentation right now, so we're going to try and do something. Councillor McKenney? Okay. Is a question for the presenter?
Yeah, it's more of just a comment. Thank you, Ryan, for coming out and presenting, and appreciate you looking into that, Chair. I just want to let folks know that Ryan is now writing a monthly column for the Centertown Buzz, which, as the name would suggest, it's local to Centertown, but you can catch it online, and it's on accessibility issues, and it is full of information that a lot of us can reflect on and think about. So thanks for coming out, and I encourage everybody to read Ryan's column. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McKenney, for sharing that with us. Thank you, Ryan, for coming out. Thank you to all the speakers for coming today. We appreciate your input. Now, is there any questions of staff from councillors? I know we did a couple before we started, but is there any now? None? Okay, so is this item, Councillor, or Commissioner Carricato?
Perhaps I'm not asking at the right time, and it should be in November, but in case it is the right time, I just want to know if there is a commitment to consult with the community that came here and others who wish to be a part of it as you develop the online booking system, and what's being done to make sure it meets their needs.
Yes, and a point of clarification, this team takes takes a lot of pride in consulting with the customer group. New vehicles, they were consulted. Online booking, they were consulted twice, and remember, we could not get the customer groups to endorse going to online. And sorry, I'm just going through the list because we have consulted. We care very much about every one of those speakers, and I've met personally with a lot of them, including Mr. Reddens and others, and I've walked through all of these things with them. The Presto, they were part of the working group and testing. The LRT, they were part of the working group on the design of the stations and the trains. They're part of the design working group for many other things, and the report will be saying that they are part of the working group to design the online booking. So absolutely, Commissioner.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you. Nobody else? Okay, so is the item received? Received. Thank you. That takes us to the end of the agenda. I believe there's no in-camera items. Is there any notices of motion? Does anyone have anything for the next Transit Commission? We're good? Inquiries, any inquiries? Other business? You did that. Okay, and so are we adjourned? Adjourned? Okay, thank you.